It is Exposure on Radio X. I'm John Kennedy, and that is Andy Bell with It Gets Easier from the new album, which has just come out, Flicker. And I'm very pleased to say that Andy is my session guest tonight. And before I play you the first of the session tracks, I'm going to have a quick chat with him via Zoom. Hello, Andy. How are you?
Hi, John. I'm great, thank you. I'm very well.
Very glad to hear that. Now, I thought It Gets Easier would be a good one to play, just partly because it's in contrast to the acoustic songs that you've recorded for us, but also it seems to me, Andy, as if it does get easier for you because you are ridiculously prolific at the moment. And I was just kind of looking at the timeline. So the Last Ride album came out in 2019. Then you put out the first solo album, The View from Halfway Down, in October 2020. Last year, you put out 4 solo EPs and the fantastic Glock album, and now you're back with a double album of music. What's going on?
I don't know, really. I think it's just a bit like when you suddenly get 4 films with the same actors in them, and it's because they've done them over a period of time and then they all arrive at the same time. Or 3 buses, you know.
Well, it's pretty impressive. And, you know, I love the idea that clearly it seems to me that you're on such a roll that you're feeling really creative in lots of different ways.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling good about music at the moment and feeling pretty good about getting it out there, which I haven't always felt like about. Yeah. I haven't always felt as eager to get stuff out there in the public sphere.
Yeah,
but the more I do it, the more I feel like it's a positive thing to do.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, listening to the new record, do you think that you feel a bit more relaxed with this one? You know, as a solo artist, and it just seems to me that the way you're singing and everything, it just feels, I don't know, easier somehow.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, I think the very first single, I was really just dipping my toe in the water, and then I did The View from Halfway Down, and it's a bit more of a full-length thing, but still not a huge album. Like, this is more like a real big album, you know, like a proper project.
Yeah.
Because it's double, you know. View from Halfway Down was 8 tracks, and only some of them had singing on them, and it was sort of a little bit of a stepping stone to get to here, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this has 18 tracks, which is amazing. And I mean, musically also, it seems to tie in a few different elements together, because, say, with It Gets Easier, that almost seems like a bridge between Glock and the solo stuff, and there are some songs which maybe could have a nod to Ride, possibly. And, you know, there's elements of your multifaceted personality, Andy, on this record.
Well, I set Glock up to be kind of all electronic and instrumental, and then I kind of had quite a good time breaking all those rules when, on the second Glock album, I had loads of vocalists come in and work with me, and there's loads of guitars all over it, obviously. And I think I just have fun with it, really. I mean, rules are made to be broken, aren't they? Yeah, totally. And you've just done a run of shows for Independent Venue Week. You've also been doing these space station shows. What are they? I mean, or is that what you've been doing? Well, Space Station came out of a lockdown thing. In a way, everything I've done in the last, you know, all these releases have been a product of the pandemic in a way, because I wouldn't have probably got around to doing them without that free time. But yeah, the Space Station started off as me streaming from a local cafe called Lo-Fi, just wanting to get a bit of connection musically with people, so turning it with a guitar and some effects and just playing stuff over backing tapes. And the backing tapes were things that I'd taken off my records. So it might be a beat off a Glock record, or a beat or a bass line or something off a solo song. And then after a while of doing that, I got eventually asked by Stereolab to support them for a gig. And they requested it, couldn't you do that cafe thing you do? And so I had to think of a name for it. So I kind of came up quickly with Andy Bell Space Station.
Yeah.
And it's become a good way of being able to play stuff from whatever I've got going on at the time. Like, sometimes it's more Glock oriented, sometimes it's more, you know, song oriented, but I don't sing. I just play the tracks and play a guitar over them.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I love the idea that you can have these different outlets in a way, and it sounds like a really creative one in that it's constantly evolving and changing, and a good way of exploring, really, which I think is something that you've kind of rediscovered. You've rediscovered that explorative aspect of being a musician, really, and an artist.
I think so, yeah. I mean, for me, the pandemic was all about getting inventive about ways to still be able to play music. And it all comes out of that, really. So these dates I just did for Independent Venue Week, these were all Space Station gigs. And doing 6 in a row, I did feel that I was kind of starting to play similar stuff now towards the end, like each time. So now I have to go away now and make a whole load more backing tapes so that I can get free with it again.
Yeah.
It's like it's getting too planned out now.
Yeah, sure.
Because the whole idea of it is that it kind of, it's in the moment, and it's a little bit like an improvised situation. Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe you'll be shaking things up because you're going out on the road with Ride in April, and that will be completely different. And obviously you've got Flickr now, so that might focus your attention on how to bring these songs to life at some point.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about this album then? You know, why did it have to be such a big piece of work?
It really just, it was a whole set of songs that went together. And it was too many for a single album. I don't know. I'm very big on the way that albums are compiled, and I don't want to do an album that's too long, but it's always got to make sense as vinyl. So I always kind of conceive it as vinyl. So if it's 2 sides, it's got to be 20 minutes a side to keep the quality, the audio quality.
Yeah.
That's a boring answer, really, but it's true. It's like it's all about the vinyl sides and what you can do with it. Like the way that The View from Halfway Down became an album rather than a single was because I was originally going to do a 12-inch, and it went from a 12 to an album just because I couldn't decide what tracks to put on it. And I said to Nat from the label, I kind of been playing around with 2 long instrumentals or like 4 short songs, but whichever way I do it, I can't get everything I want to say. So could I do 8 tracks and make it an album? He was like, yeah, it's totally fine. So it became an album for that reason.
Yeah. And this
one is sort of the same thing. It's like it's a bunch of songs that go together, and it just works over 4 sides.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's already sold out in the gold ochre vinyl version.
Yeah, I mean, you know, those Bandcamp editions are sort of built to sell out, aren't they? I think that's sort of the whole thing with them. There's still plenty of ones left, I think, that are like the other variation, the silver variation.
Right.
So people can buy it on vinyl.
Yeah, that's good.
And it doesn't sound any different.
Right. Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, coloured vinyl, isn't that meant to be inferior, sounding wise?
Yeah. I mean, they say that black's better.
Who knows?
But I don't know. I mean, I've obviously played it on every version, and I think it sounds. I can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
I think it sounds great.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, you've put together these 3 acoustic versions of songs that are on Flickr. And the first one I'm going to play is Something Like Love. And love is a theme, maybe, within the album, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Love's always a theme.
Yes.
At the risk of sounding like Barry White.
Yeah, I mean, understandably. And I read that there's an element of kind of looking back on your younger self and kind of communicating your older self with your younger self in some way.
Yeah, it's sort of like a collaboration, really, because my 19-year-old self is quite different to how I am now, but I kind of like him. And to finish the tracks that are on Flickr, I mean, the sessions for the album, even at that point, I was doing songs that had been around for, that's my dog scratching herself in the background, you can hear. Even at Gem's studio, I was doing songs that were years and years old. So some of the songs go back to the 90s almost. And so I was kind of looking back in order to finish them and getting back into old headspaces and thinking about the past. And for the sleeve, I pulled out a picture from the Ride album Nowhere, that Joe Dilworth took, that seemed to, I don't know, just fit the music.
Yeah, it's kind of a blurred image, isn't it? It's clever in that way, in that you don't specifically look at the younger version of Andy Bell.
I feel like it looks like a record sleeve. It looks like a Cure album or something.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out which Cure album it looks like, but
yeah, or a Peter Gabriel album, or even a Bowie album.
Yeah. Oh, there are a few on there. Yeah, there is a bit of that in it.
Yeah. No, I like all of those.
In
things.
good company.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think that you will be putting together an Andy Bell solo set for later in the year, beyond the Space Station thing, to reflect this album?
I don't see it happening. I mean, I do some of the songs in the Space Station setup, and then as soon as we can, we're going to start playing with Ride again, and I can't wait for that. We've got a load of touring booked for April onwards, which is all celebrating Nowhere, which came out 1990. So the original plan in 2020 was to do this touring as a 30-year anniversary.
Yeah.
But obviously that didn't happen because of the pandemic hitting, and so we're kind of catching up with ourselves and in the background working on another album as well.
Right. Excellent. So that's good news. And so good news with regard to Ride, but presumably that album won't be out till next year?
Yeah, I guess next year, yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah.
Excellent. But in the meantime, we've got Flicker to enjoy as well.
Yes.
I'm going to let you go.
Have.
Thank you so much for talking to me. Thanks for putting these tracks together. It's always a pleasure to have them. And it's I really like the acoustic aspect of what you're doing as well. I know that you put it into the EPs. It seems a kind of an important part of what you do.
Well, this acoustic version of the song you're getting, or these acoustic versions, they are pretty much where they all came from on Flickr. The sessions were done with an acoustic, single acoustic guitar, bass and drums, and that's how they're all made. So everything springs from that. So I think when you hear them acoustic, you hear the heart of it.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. Andy, thanks again. And here you are in session. So this is the first of Andy's tracks in tonight's show. This is the acoustic version of Something Like Love.
Lost in a reverie, future day. all been seen somewhere before, babe. Now time's not on our side. See the flicker as a fire starts to burn. It's not enough. Burn down the world for me. Use a mirror to remember and look back with something like love. La 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 la. It's not enough. Burn down the world for me. See the flicker as a fire starts to burn. It's never enough. Burn down the world for me. Use a mirror to remember and look back with something like love.
Taking it back to the essence, really. Sounding fantastic. That is Andy Bell with Something Like Love, the first of the session tracks that Andy recorded acoustically for us. And it was Andy himself who I was talking to via Zoom just the other day. Flicker is the title of the new album. It is out now on Sonic Cathedral Records. And yeah, I think it's great. This burst of unstoppable activity for Andy and his many different avenues of exploration and creativity. Maybe you've got tickets to go and see Ride soon. Good to know that there's a new album on the way from them, hopefully next year. And on the way in just a moment, I've got Pillow Queens, and I've also got one of Andy's recent Glock collaborators, Sinead O'Brien.
Exposure with John Kennedy.
Radio X.
She drew the gun. Panopticon on Exposure Radio X. And incidentally, it's not the last you've heard from Frank Turner in tonight's show. I thought I'd play one of the bonus tracks that you get on the deluxe edition of FTHC. A song that kind of ties in with some of the different themes that are on the record. Might kind of tie things up rather nicely, I thought. But that will be right near the end of tonight's show. Right now, it's time for the second of the session tracks from Andy Bell. You've been waiting patiently. It's about time you had it. World of Echo.
When the world it's here and now. We are so far away from any echoes of the world.
Excellent. Andy Bell in session on Exposure Radio X with World of Echo, and you can find another version of that on the new album Flicker, which is out now on Sonic Cathedral Records, and one more song to come from Andy Bell before the show is over, and all sorts of other delights as well, as many as I can squeeze in.
Exposure with John Kennedy.
Radio
Pre-skate with Eyes Closed for the Winter. It almost slipped through the exposure net. Just before that, Koala with Jesse Come On, and Media Giant with Guilt, Shame. And now it's time for the last of the session tracks from Andy Bell. This is Lifeline.
Side of the looking glass, there's a world to believe in, a world of endless connections, drowning in meanings. At the end of the rabbit hole, there is only confusion as you burn through the last of your friends, chasing down an illusion. You found that your leaders don't care about you, owned by corporations, wheels of power turn without you. But there's no conspiracy where all this is connected. The meanings you find are your missing pieces reflected. To be all alone, didn't come here to be left out at sea. One morning, realize it's a sewer, and the others who dragged you down were only hurting like you were, isolated and burned by life, and in need of protection. Is it time to stop moving in another direction? Is it time to stop moving in another direction?
Beautiful. Andy Bell in session on Exposure Radio X with Lifeline, and I really love the tenderness that there is to these session tracks, just sounding so good. Thank you so much, Andy, for recording them and sharing them with us. Excellent stuff. And Flicker, the new album from Andy Bell, the 18-track double, out now on Sonic Cathedral. Go and get it. You know what to do. It's excellent. You're listening to Exposure on Radio X, and I've got a few minutes before I have to leave you. Another 20 minutes or so. I'm going to try and squeeze in as much new music as possible into them.